to forging ahead on the battlefield. Despite President Trump's calls for peace, Russia is ramping up its offensive on Ukraine.
And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago.
While Donald Trump has been determined to try to get both sides to reach peace, what we see Russia doing is doubling down on its invasion.
With Ukraine running low on weapons and manpower, Russia is seizing the initiative. Here's why the next months will be a critical moment in the conflict. In recent weeks, Russia has stepped up aerial assaults on Ukrainian cities, sending waves of drones, at times hundreds at once.
One of the main Russian aims is to break the will of Ukrainians to resist.
These intensifying drone attacks highlight a key problem for Ukraine. Kyiv is running low on weapons, particularly air defences, and Moscow has been courting President Trump in a bid to splinter Western support for Ukraine.
Russia is determined to destroy the West's belief that Ukraine can win. Russia believes that if they can bring the West to understand that Russia will always fight in Ukraine for longer, Russia will not give in, that the West will then give up on its support for Ukraine.
At first, it seemed to be working. While the Trump administration continued to send weapons to Ukraine, which had been approved by the previous Biden government, there were a few interruptions, including a pause in arms deliveries in early July. But Trump's growing frustrations with the lack of progress in peace talks and Russia's continued airstrikes seemingly backfired on Moscow.
Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people.
Trump announced a deal where the US would send weapons to Ukraine, including additional Patriot air defense systems that would be paid for by NATO countries.
We're not buying it, but we will manufacture it and they're going to be paying for it.
Trump also made economic threats if a peace deal isn't reached.
We're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days.
In addition to its air assaults, Russia has stepped up its efforts on the battlefield, pushing ahead in the country's eastern Donetsk region as well as in Ukraine's north. This includes the Sumy region, where Russia has massed 50,000 troops.
Recently, what we've seen Russia try to do is aim for encirclements of cities, to try to push forward on several fronts at the same time, to force Ukrainians to make a choice. They're already stretched. Where can we defend? So the more that the Russians are able to stretch the front, the more areas that Russia is able to threaten, and the deeper into central Ukraine that Russia can threaten to push, the more pressure that puts on Ukraine.
While Moscow's progress on the battlefield is slow, analysts say spreading its troops shows Russia is still aiming to take the whole of Ukraine, adding that Russia now has enough manpower to open these new fronts.
The front line stretches 800 miles. Russia is able to field many, many more troops than Ukraine can. Ukraine is critically short, particularly of infantry. So Ukraine has this weakness that Russia's trying to take advantage of by throwing more and more troops onto the battlefield.
Russia looks set to bolster its numbers with North Korean troops, according to South Korea's spy agency, in addition to the 15,000 Pyongyang has deployed since last fall. Outmanned and outgunned, Ukraine is resorting to different tactics, using long-range drones to target military equipment and production facilities deep inside Russia, including an audacious attack in June, where Ukraine used drones smuggled into Russia to destroy several strategic bombers.
They've not only taken the fight deep into enemy territory, they've surprised Russia, achieved a psychological gain over Russia, but they have also achieved a strategic gain. If you are able to prevent those weapons from reaching the front lines, from bombing Ukrainian cities by striking them before they even reach the theatre of war, it's a much more effective way of doing it than waiting for those weapons and those soldiers to reach the front lines before you try to hit them.
As drones have come to dominate the battlefield, Ukraine has ramped up production. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said the country can manufacture at least 4 million a year.
Ukraine has a huge number of these now, which are a very important defensive weapon. One of the main reasons they've risen in importance for Ukraine is, first of all, the number that Ukraine is able to field, but second of all, because Ukraine has for a long time suffered from a deficit of artillery shells. The West is simply not able to match the number of artillery shells that Russia can either produce or receive from its allies, in particular North Korea. So these drones have enabled Ukraine to kind of even the balance on the battlefield.
In addition to the defensive missiles the US is sending to Ukraine, Trump has indicated he is losing patience with Putin.
I've been hearing so much talk. It's all talk. It's all talk, and then missiles go into Kiev.
Can Ukraine hold the line against this Russian summer offensive? Russia wants to achieve large gains. If Ukraine is able to hold the Russians off again, that will give them confidence going into winter when it is easier to defend.